Today's lesson, we're going to talk about equivalent fractions and decimals. So we've talked about the word equivalent a lot this year. We had equivalent fractions that we found back in our fraction unit, meaning fractions that name the same amount, fractions that are equal to each other. So there's also equivalent decimals, decimals that can name the same amount. So let's take a look at some of those today. So here we go. Our problem that we're going to look at. It says Daniel spent a day hiking through a wildlife preserve. During the first hour of the hike, he drank 6/10 liter of water. How many hundredths of a liter did he drink? So here our fraction, 6/10 of a liter, and we want to be writing this, we want to change it to hundredths. How many hundredths is 6/10? So let's look at some different ways to show this. How to find the answer to this problem. So one way, we're going to write 6/10 as an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100. And we're making a denominator of 100 because we're trying to find how many hundredths he did.
August, please go to Ms. King's room.
All right, because we're going to find out how many hundredths he drank. So here's our model of our tenths. So first, let's model our 6/10. 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10. So there's our 6/10. You know what we're going to do? Now we're going to model that same amount with our hundredths, 6/10. So this is still a tenth right here, 10 hundredths, 6/10. So that's 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10. So here I shaded my 6/10 over here, but this model is broken into hundredths. So how many hundredths is 6/10? Well, this is 10 hundredths. 1/10 is 10 hundredths. So let's count by tenths. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. It's 60 hundredths. 60 hundredths. A way that we can know, or a way that we can, instead of drawing a model, that we can use some math to find our equivalent fraction. So if we started with 6/10, here we have 6/10. I'm going to multiply both of these by 10. Okay, I'm going to multiply the numerator and the denominator both by 10 to find an equivalent fraction. 10 times 10 is 100. 6 times 10 is 60. So I can draw a model showing that 6/10 is the same as 60 hundredths. I can also multiply by a fraction that's equal to 1 to find an equivalent fraction. 10 over 10 is equal to 1. So when we multiply any number by 1, we end with the same number. So 6/10 and 60 hundredths are equal. All right, so let's take a look at another way using our place value chart. 6/10, let's write it as a decimal. Well, I have 0 ones, my decimal point, and I have a 6 in my tenths place. 6/10. And you know what? I don't have any hundredths. So let's actually put our 0. I have 0 hundredths, 6/10 and 0 hundredths. So I can read this as 6/10, or I can read this as 60 hundredths because I'm ending in the hundredths place. I can read this number as 60 hundredths or as 6/10. So those are equivalent decimals. So he drank 6/10 or 60 hundredths liters of water. Both of these are naming the same amount. See, they're the same amount, but one is using tenths and one is using hundredths. All right, we're going to look at some more problems in the next video.